A shell casing in the dirt. A teenager face down in the desert. No shoes, no wallet, just a teenage body baking in the New Mexico sun. When officers arrived at that remote stretch of wasteland outside Albuquerque, one of them said something that stuck. This is going to be a horrible day.
There's his eye, obviously.
I brought him out here and executed him.
Oh, this sucks. It's going to be a horrible day.
And they were right, because the deeper investigators dug, the more they realized the most dangerous person in this case wasn't hiding in the shadows. She had been sitting across from detectives the entire time, and they didn't realize it yet. The discovery. On May 19, 2023, a young couple was driving through a remote desert road on the outskirts of Albuquerque, New Mexico, when the passenger spotted something in the dirt that didn't belong there. A body. They called 911 immediately. The dispatcher tried to stay calm, asking if there was any chance the person could be helped. The caller's voice dropped. His whole face is black already.
Bernalillo County 911, what is the address of your emergency?
There's no address.
Tell me exactly what happened, sir.
We're just driving by and my mom saw a dead body.
Okay, and it's exactly where you're at right now?
Yeah.
You think they're beyond any help?
Yeah, I think they're dead.
Okay, stay on the line, okay? Can you tell their race?
It might be Hispanic.
How old does he look?
Let me get a little closer.
No, you don't have to get closer, just approximately what you think.
Maybe 20 to 30.
Okay, and you think he's beyond any help?
Yeah. His color of skin looks very dark, so I don't think he...
You want to try to do CPR?
What's that?
We have help coming, but if you think there may be a possibility, we can try to work on him and do CPR, if you feel comfortable.
I don't think so. His whole face is black already.
Police responded within minutes. What they found stopped them cold. A teenage boy lying face down in the scorched New Mexico earth. No identification, no shoes. The heat had already begun its brutal work, suggesting he had been out there for at least a day, maybe two. Blood pooling in his ears, a wound through his eye, and on the cracked ground nearby, a single shell casing catching the desert light. For a moment, nobody spoke. The desert wind was the only sound. Then the officers moved. They walked the scene carefully, reading it in real time. The blood patterns told them he hadn't been dumped here. He was alive when he arrived. He was shot right where he fell, standing, before his body crumpled down into the dirt. One officer crouched, looked closely, and said quietly, "He just looks very undeveloped still, definitely not 21. He was 16 years old. His name was Jesus Cota, and someone had lured him out here to die." Who was Jesus Cota? Jesus Cota was 16 years old, the kind of teenager still figuring out who he was becoming, the kind of kid who still laughed too loud with his friends, who checked his phone every few minutes hoping someone special had texted back, still growing into his frame, still at the age where a girl reaching out feels like the entire world shifting in your direction. People who knew him described someone caught between two versions of himself, the boy his family knew at home, and the streets that were quietly pulling at him. Weeks before his death, he had allegedly fired shots at someone's car, a reckless act, the kind that, in the brutal economy of Albuquerque street life, doesn't get forgotten. But Jesus didn't know anyone was keeping score. He didn't know that somewhere across town, people were already deciding what came next. He thought he was going on a date. He got in that car smiling. The setup. 18-year-old Mariana Gomez knew Jesus liked her. That's exactly why she was chosen. According to prosecutors, 18-year-old Daniel Garcia and his 17-year-old friend Dominic Marquez had already made their decision. Jesus had to die. The motive, as Daniel would later admit in an interrogation room, was retaliation, payback for those shots fired at a car weeks earlier. Blood for blood. But neither of them wanted to be the one who got close enough to make it happen. So they looked at what they had, and what they had was Mariana. She reached out to Jesus through text messages, building something that felt like interest, like warmth, like the beginning of something real. Flirtatious, attentive. She made him feel like he'd caught the attention of someone worth impressing. Jesus responded exactly as they hoped. He was excited. He was showing up. He had no idea he was being aimed. Someone looked at a 16-year-old boy's feelings for a girl and decided those feelings were a weapon. They handed that weapon to Mariana, and she used it. On the night of May 18th, Mariana picked Jesus up and drove toward what he believed was the beginning of something. Instead, she was delivering him to the end of everything. Daniel and Dominic were already waiting, and so was a fourth person, an older man, someone who would become one of the most haunting loose ends in this entire case. The group assaulted Jesus first, brutal, disorienting, designed to strip away any chance of resistance. Then they drove him further out, into the open desert, away from roads, away from witnesses, away from any possibility of help. Out there in the dark and silence, Jesus Cota was shot multiple times and left behind. By the time that couple drove past the next morning, he had been lying in the dirt for hours. The witness who wasn't. When detectives first sat across from Mariana Gomez, she wasn't in handcuffs. She was there as a witness, a frightened teenage girl helping investigators piece together what happened to Jesus Cota. She played the role with precision. She gave them fragments of the night, filled in timelines, named other people. She described an older man she picked up near a road, not at the houses, she was careful to clarify, just near them. Mexican, she said, maybe 40s or 50s, gray-streaked hair, small eyes, darker complexion. Daniel's uncle, she said. That's what they told her. She seemed cooperative, scared, exactly like someone who had witnessed something terrible and was trying to do the right thing. But while Mariana talked, investigators were building in silence, pulling phone records, mapping GPS data, stacking her account against the statements being collected in other rooms from other people at the exact same time. Phone records placed Mariana in direct contact with Jesus in the final hours before his death. Her location data traced a route that told its own story. And the more they compared her version against the others, the more the gaps became impossible to paper over. She wasn't a witness. She was the reason any of it was possible. The plan only worked because of her, and she had walked into that police station and sat down across from detectives like she had absolutely nothing to worry about.
The arrest. The lead detective gave her time. He could have moved sooner, he later acknowledged that, but he waited, let her feel the distance between herself and what was coming. Then one afternoon, officers approached her in public, calm, deliberate. Put that stuff down real quick. Turn around.
Stop. That's her. Mariana, do me a favor, put that stuff down real quick. You want to drop your bag as well?
Yeah.
Don't turn around.
Are you guys gonna grab this?
We'll take care of everything. Don't turn around. Thank you. Thanks for being cooperative with us. Sure. Go and look up for me. These are going to be really loose on you, okay? So don't do anything crazy and slip them, all right?
No crying, no panic. She complied, asked about her truck, made small talk about her coffee still sitting in her hand. The composure wasn't just notable, it was unsettling in a way that confirmed everything detectives had already concluded. Mariana Gomez was handcuffed and transported for questioning. The charges waiting for her were among the most serious a person can face: first-degree murder, kidnapping, robbery, conspiracy, and tampering with evidence. She asked if she could finish her coffee. The interrogation.
Okay. Are you sure? Now's the time to be honest, because once you leave here, we determine you're lying, because I'm starting to have my doubts.
Yeah.
So, where did you pick him up at?
So, like I said, Feliberto's is right here, and then you go a little bit more down, and there's like a road, and then there's houses right there. And I didn't pass none of those houses, but I parked up right there, like on the corner.
Okay.
And I just waited there, and he was just there on the street.
Okay, so you didn't pull up to any of those houses?
No.
Okay. All right. Who was that?
Who
was the guy?
Daniel's uncle. That's what they told me.
That's what they told you?
When the detective walked back into that room, Mariana looked up without flinching. Surprised to see me again? Not really, she said.
Hello, Mariana. Surprised to see me again? Not really.
What followed was one of the most unsettling interrogations in this case, not because Mariana broke down, but because she barely did. She sat in that chair the way most people sit waiting for a bus. The detective laid it out plainly, the planning, the text messages, the conversations about splitting Jesus's money 3 ways afterward. He looked at her and said, "I know you didn't pull the trigger, but you were an active participant." She didn't deny it. She didn't rage. She absorbed it with a detached calm that visibly affected a man who had worked homicides for years. Then she asked about reaching her boyfriend, wondered if the jail had tablets she could use for Instagram, asked whether they had doctors for her anxiety. The detective told her what she was actually facing: life in prison. Gone at 18 years old. Then he said something that cut through the entire room like a blade. "What I lost is life because you helped." That sentence, in that room, directed at a girl asking about her coffee. He wasn't cruel. He told her he hoped things worked out. He acknowledged she had cooperated, that it might matter later, but he also told her the plain truth. "You made some very poor decisions for what? A boy? There is really no justification." She nodded. She sat quietly. She asked again about contacting her boyfriend. Daniel talks and changes everything. Down the hall, Daniel Garcia was making a different kind of mistake. Dominic said almost nothing, exercising a right that many suspects forget they even have. But Daniel started, and once he started, he couldn't stop the story from unraveling. He confirmed the plan, admitted Mariana had been chosen specifically because Jesus liked her, acknowledged the motive, retaliation for the shots fired at his car weeks earlier. He framed himself as reluctant, someone in the back seat who never really wanted any of this. Then the detective pressed harder. Daniel admitted he had been holding an AR-15 that night, admitted he fired it into the dirt, he said, because someone told him it was fake. And then he said something that changed the entire shape of the case. The detective paused, because that changed everything. The older man Mariana called Daniel's uncle. According to Daniel, it was his father. He claimed his father was the one who wanted it done, that his father fired the fatal shots, that Daniel called him that night not to recruit a killer, but because he knew his father would do it so Daniel himself wouldn't have to. Whether that's the truth, a teenager desperately redirecting blame, or something more complicated entirely, no one has ever been able to confirm it, because the older man, Daniel's alleged father or uncle or whoever he truly was, has never been officially identified, never charged. According to Mariana's defense attorneys, he remains free to this day. The psychology. What makes this case so difficult to sit with isn't the violence, it's the architecture of it. These weren't hardened criminals. They were teenagers who looked at a boy's feelings for a girl and decided those feelings were useful, who planned this not in some back room, but likely in parking lots and text message threads, the way teenagers plan everything else. They weren't thinking about consequences. They were thinking about loyalty, about respect, about what it meant to handle something. And Mariana, whether out of fear or affection for someone in the group or something colder that only she truly understands, made herself the centerpiece of a plan that ended a boy's life. Investigators talk about a specific kind of danger, the person who doesn't look dangerous, who cooperates just enough, who sits in an interrogation room asking about Instagram when being told they're facing life in prison. That composure, in its own way, tells you everything. Verdicts and sentences. Jesus Cota's family didn't get answers in a courtroom. They got a funeral. They got a phone call from strangers who happened to drive past a desert road. They got the kind of grief that has no verdict attached to it, the kind that doesn't end when the courtroom clears. Dominic Marquez pled guilty.
22 years in prison. Daniel Garcia has yet to face trial. Mariana Gomez went before a jury. They acquitted her of first-degree murder, but that was the only mercy the verdict contained. Convicted of kidnapping, conspiracy, and tampering with evidence, she was sentenced to 19.5 years behind bars. And the man who may have fired the fatal shots, the fourth person standing in that desert, was never found, never charged, never named. Final thought. A text message. That's how it started. A teenage boy who thought someone was interested in him, who got in a car on a May evening because a girl asked him to. He was 16, still becoming whoever he was going to be, still checking his phone, still laughing too loud, still thinking the worst thing about that night was that it might not go well. 3 teenagers went to prison. 1 boy went into the ground, and the person who may have pulled the trigger walked back into the world, into whatever life he was living, and was never found. Somewhere out there, the desert keeps its secrets, and one of them is still walking free. If this case stayed with you, it should. Subscribe so you never miss a story, because every case matters, and every victim deserves to be remembered.